The world is changing faster than you can imagine. The old systems are collapsing. Join us as we delve into the minds driving the future, the clean titans.
Dr. Osuagwu, you recently made a resolution to move your teaching from the ivory tower of the classroom to the streets of Aba. What was the specific moment, the specific phase or site that made you realize that academic papers weren't enough to save the planet?
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this moment and especially trying to take me back, have a relief of what made me to make that decision. It is over 3 or 4 years now, right? I live in Abia State, Nigeria. The capital city of Abia State is Umuahia and Aba is the industrial hub. And then when I relocated here, I normally do not go to Aba, but on this very day, I wanted to take a trip to get some clothing items from the Aba market because it's pretty much cheap. They make new clothes there, new shoes, and they import so much. It is a hub one needs to see, especially if we are talking about it. When I moved into that market, it is something that I came out with tears in my eyes because I couldn't breathe properly. Seriously, because every little store, I'm talking about stores that are in inches, maybe barely 100 inches wide, and you see every single of them has small generator, right, on their own. Some of them with a little of pipe moved up, and some just like that. There was smoke everywhere, and I couldn't breathe properly. I couldn't last more than an hour in that market because I was just running helter-skelter. Wherever I get to, the smoke was there. I wasn't breathing properly. And then when I came out on my way home, something struck me because I am not talking about the fumes. I'm not talking about the blocked drainages. I'm also talking about the open dump site that is here and there. Every 1 feet, every one pole, every other pole you cross, you will see pretty much small dump sites here, those small waste here and there. And then you will see this big mound of waste. And as I was going home, because I came on a public transport, I was so worried at home. I got home, I felt sick, and then I was thinking about it all the whole time over the holiday. And I'm like, what is it going on? Every day we write papers, we produce them, we publish them, they are on the internet, and it's pretty not making any impact. I don't know if it's making impact out there for those who read it, but what about where I belong to? I'm not talking about the city center that I live in, which is pretty much okay, but I'm talking about where the population, the masses, where they dwell, they go every day. In fact, I found out as I was coming home, making some interactions on the vehicle, that people that go from the city center to Aba every day are normal. If it takes barely 10 to 15 minutes for a full coastal bus of about 40 people to fill up, you can imagine that. And this happens from morning till pretty much in the afternoon and return home. So seeing that, I was so devastated. You know why? Because we're talking about a market where you see a newborn baby, women carrying their newborn babies to the market. We are talking about a market where you see children 1 to 5 years. They stay with their parents in those markets, especially when they don't start school early. We are talking about markets where you see most of our population of the youth stay from morning to night. And we're talking about a hub, a city whereby every single aspect of it, right front center, all markets. And people.
You described leachate percolating into underground aquifers. When you look at a child in India drinking that water, do you see a biological failure or a policy failure?
I see more of a policy failure than a biological failure. Why am I saying this, right? It's because we travel out, we see other places, we see what people do. We see how governments put their population first, especially their health, before whatever, right? I am looking at it in this way. If there are policies that have been enacted, if they are being regulated, if they are being monitored, if there are evaluations, I don't think the open dump sites we are looking at will be existing. Yes, as I speak to you now, the new government of Dr. Alex Oti, they have done something so tremendous compare what I met here when I came in 2015, right? They have done something tremendous in terms of taking charge and taking the ASEPA, that is the Abia State Protection Agency. They have woken up because somebody is behind the wheels, persuading them and seeing that they are doing something. So it is of a polycystic moral, which also brings biological crisis. Because imagine if there's a child born like this, he or she saw himself living in such a place, thinking is a norm, right? That they could go by that and see that whenever I have waste, I drop them. Whenever there is rainfall, I put my waste in the floor. They think it's normal. I know it is a policy failure, but I want to see something better than this present government is doing. They are doing something, and I hope they will do better, especially when they bring consultants and experts looking at the things we have published and working hand in hand with them to see that we are able to cut this to a BRS minimum for the safety of our generation.
How does the extraction age mindset of treating the earth as a trash bin directly correlate to the poverty you see in commercial centers like Aba?
When I look at people, especially around us here, especially Nigeria, where open dump sites has been the norm, and looking at this extraction from extraction age angle, we are looking at resource first and people last. No, that is not right. In the extraction age, value is measured by how much raw material can be pulled out of maybe oil, minerals, timber, whatsoever we have, and how fast it can be sold, which causes us environmental crisis. Be it the air, be it the water, be it the soil. You see pollution everywhere. And this environment has a ripple effect. One that has to do with air has somehow to do with the water and the soil. And they are treated as externalities and not as business expenses. In classrooms, I usually tell my students that most of the times when you present environmental challenges to the government, they say it as a second-hand thing because there is no financial benefit accrued to them directly. They see it as not important. But environment is what nurtures the life that will make the money. If you don't put it first, it's not going to be easy. So when you come to as a commercial hub, there are a lot of markets, small-scale manufacturers, informal workshops that depend on cheap, often dirty inputs. Example, low-grade chemicals, recycled plastics, right? Because the larger extractive economy pushes high-value resources out of the reach for locals. So the result is a concentration of pollution in the places where people live and work. Therefore, if looking at pollution, which is health and productivity loss, are you looking at this suit? Are you looking at sickness on the workers? Are you looking at their medical bills? Are you looking at the degraded ecosystems, loss of lives that all these things cause? It culminates to loss that we are looking at, right? So it is so important that we start looking at the environment first instead of seeing it as an externality, to be able to secure what we have, to be healthy enough, to nurture it to a healthy point so that we that are living there can actually also have a healthy life and stay alive. Because one thing is important, you need to stay alive, healthy enough for you to do the business. So we need to start looking at that.
Let's talk about your work at Morgan State. You are studying microplastic ingestion by zooplankton. If the very base of the aquatic food chain is eating our waste, what is the thermodynamic reality for human food security over the next 50 years?
That's a work because it's aroused because of a whole lot of things that are vague surrounding microplastics that I wanted to find out, not just on the basis of the Western world, but here in the global South. I wanted to use my country to know actually what others have been seeing, what they've been finding out. Is it also existing here? So when I got to Morgan, I decided I'm going to go ahead and research on this topic, and most especially back here in Nigeria. My reason is this: where I come from, the southern part of Nigeria, call it Niger Delta, right? And that Niger Delta is comprising of several, and we have some part that is tropical red forest, and we have some part that is mangrove. Now, the mangrove part is where most of our water dwell, right? And that water is what I want to know, not just because we have excessive pollution over the years. You must have heard Ogoni land, right? But I want to know, we are also shouting, thinking, talking about cleanup. When we talk about cleanup, we are talking about the oil pollution. I wanted to know, if not just the oil pollution, what is microplastic doing to that ecosystem, right? So that is what brought me back home, to be able to know why, if there are microplastic pollution from this part of the world, and see what I can bring to limelight over it. Now, to your question, the thermodynamic reality for human security over the next 50 years, considering my work on microplastic, right? Now, I chose zooplankton because it works hand in hand with the plankton. They are the basis for food chain when it comes to aquatic community. And therefore, because of their type of feeding, their filter feeding method, that means they gulp whatever comes their way that look like food to them, right? So I was thinking from the literature point of view that I would think that there should be gulping microplastic that is need be, and then I want to find out if they do, to what rates, at what concentration, and is it happening where I come from, and then what will it be? Now, because of that energy flow, in my work, I found out that truly we have the jellyfish. That was one of the microplastic I saw. And for real, the jellyfish do engulf microplastics. And if through its filter feeding process, it does, and it becomes food energy to other fishes as you climb the food chain. What are we looking at? We are looking at this extinction. I can tell you, barely when I went for field work, right? I wasn't able to get much of the jellyfish as it used to be. From all interviews I did, from group discussions I did from the local communities. I went in the dry season, I went in the rainy season. In fact, 2 of the 3 times I went there, I didn't get anything. But I had to repeat it over and over again, go to the deep side of the sea to see if I could catch this. And what is that telling us? After 2-3 tours, you cannot get jellyfish. Why? Is it because of the pollution now, or is it because of what they're ingesting? Is it reducing now? I did not stop at microplastic just to find out if they exist in these organisms. No. What I did was to check if they actually carry heavy metals on this microplastic. Why do I do that? To be able to distinguish, to know if the microplastic they exist, are they affecting them? And then if there are carriers of heavy metals, and what kind of heavy metals are they carriers? Right? Because to be able to know, how does it literally affect human health, also with ecological risk? Now, that is the point. So if our microplastic are being ingested by zooplankton, and then you move up to the bigger chain, because I try other fish as well, and you see them in them. When these fish ingest this zooplankton, and then they move up in the chain, it literally means at the end of the day, we are seeing microplastic in fish that we consume. And then talking about communities that depend on this solely for their protein source. You could bear with me that if you look at it in the next 50 years, if nothing is done, if there are no measures to reduce this, if there are no measures to clean up, if there are no measures to be able to reduce the influx of microplastic to our water system, it means that as we take in protein, right, through these fish sources, it means we are ingesting them as well, right? So 50 years is a long life. I still do that. I still believe that we need to do more to be able to see what we can do. One is to reduce, to find alternative means of protein source. 2, find lasting solution to microplastic pollution to our water sources. 3, to be able to see that not only that we are finding the solutions, we have a proper evaluation and monitoring, even if it's quarterly, to be able to checkmate and see that we are doing this. And to finally be able to groom, allow more fish to be able to breathe on their own, not to exhaust them, right? So it is not as, I know it's not going to be easy because we already have this influx now. But what is worse is when we don't do anything at all. I want us to start looking at the work that scientists have done out there to see what we can start doing, not just by mere paper, not just by having high-level meetings in places discussing them, but coming down to every creek, to every sea, to every water source, and see how we can engage the local communities to be part of work that we are doing to checkmate microplastic influx to water sources.
We're ingesting about a credit card worth of microplastics every week, which is horrible. It's too much, right?
Yes, I want to say something else. You know, current trends show that microplastic concentration increases 2 to 3 times, by 2070, right? And we are in 2026 now. So without large-scale mitigation, zooplankton production could decline, let's say about 20 to 40%. And if it does decline, it's also going to affect fish production, because there is no way you can actually compare a fish in the wild with the one we farm, especially I'm talking about down here, right? So looking at combined with climate-driven stratification and reduced nutrient supply, global fish yield could actually fall, and we don't want that, because fish is also part of the coral and is the part of the health of our water system. So coastal and Arctic areas may see the steepest declines, and while some upwelling zones may be less affected, right? Effective plastic bans, waste management, and development of biodegradable alternatives could offset in up to 10 to 20% of the projected loss. So this wasn't part of what I did in school in my first degree, right? But because I had in my first PhD degree, but because I have the opportunity to do a second PhD, and because of every time you see things about ocean is being talked about in those shows, not mainly in Africa, right? I also want to know that yes, Africa also have water. They have water that are polluted. They are not just polluted by dust or by emissions or by oil, so to say. They are also polluted by plastic, by really good plastic. Because nothing, if I share some pictures with you, you see that our drainages end up in, our sewers end up in other sources, and that's nothing that blocks it. You see the manholes, they are very open, and everything that comes from every city, every area moves to the water. I'm sure the global society will start seeing it as, I know they're already seeing it as a global issue, but they should start looking at underdeveloping countries to start checkmating what they have from them, because everything goes to the sea. And because we are from the tropical side, the high intensity of the sunlight helps to do this fragmentation so much. So we produce so much of microplastics because I think we are the highest users. The way I say it, seriously.
Can you explain the mechanism of ingestion? Is it a mechanical mistake by the organism, or is there a chemical attraction? What happens to the bits of plastic once they enter the atoms of the biological engine?
Zooplankton eat by filtering water, like I said earlier, or capturing particles. They are filter feeders by nature. And I could actually say it's a mechanical mistake. The organism can't distinguish between plastic from food-based, or not distinguish plastic from food-based on size and shape alone. What matters to them is whatever they can go at that size goes into them, right? So, but however, some studies suggest it could be chemical attraction can play a role. Plastic often have biofilms, absorbed organic matter, or leachates. Yes, they do, but that can mimic food cues, so making zooplankton more likely to ingest them. What happens after this injection? So once they are inside the gut of the fish, microplastic they don't break down like organic food. They pass through the digestive tract, but can cause several effects, right? Number one, you can see them by physical blockage, depending whether they are films or fragments, right? Or the common bits. So large particles can clog the gut, reducing food intake and energy gain, right? And then reduce assimilation. Plastic occupies spaces, diluting the amount of nutritious food available for absorption. Then by abrasion, this plastic when they like microbeads, the beads can actually cause abrasion, and that can lead to damage. So sharp edges can injure. We talk about this fast fashion, right? That is running these days. I was glad that United Nations considered the World Cleanup Day last time for fast fashion. Yes, because a whole lot of bling these days that comes with it. Those things and the whole microbeads that come with those things, they can actually have sharp edges if you have seen and felt them before. And those can injure their gut linings. And when they do, what happens? The body wants to bring up more energy in terms of healing, and repair. And such energy will actually have effect in their production capacity. We all know that. And then chemical leaching, like I told you, my work one of the metals that I looked at was cobalt, because through the screening, cobalt was actually showing. And I tell you, the high level of cobalt, and cobalt was highest in level of concentration and way above the standard limits, right? So if they are carrying this, are the vectors for these heavy metals. So you can imagine what happens to them, all right? So when they absorb this pollutant, the heavy metals take their time to leach inside. And that also is a problem. It causes a toxic effect on them. And then another one is the excretion and fragmentation. Some of this plastic usually is being excreted by these organisms as well, right? And when they do, they're also increasing the quantity in the water, which other fish can also ingest. So the biological engine perspective, I think zooplankton as a metabolic engine, food is the fuel that gets converted to energy, right? And biomass. So microplastics are like net debris in this engine. Therefore, imagine when an engine is not working properly, the debris there will block it. Then it takes more energy to clean up. Therefore, it will definitely affect them. So they take up space, cause wear, and sometimes release harmful chemicals that disrupt the engine's internal chemistry. So the engine has to spend extra energy to deal with this debris and by clearing it up. So repairing the damage and detoxifying chemicals, reducing the net energy available for growth. Therefore, it is something, in fact, it's called for liquidity, right? Yes,
Right.
we should look at urgency because we are looking at something that destroys the food base of the aquatic resources.
The entire food chain.
Yes, will definitely be affected. So when we look at species richness, when we look at decline on fish species, and because there are fishes that are indigenous to certain locations, right? So imagine when we talk about wild animals, looking at them IUCN, looking at threatened species, I'm not sure we are also looking at threatened species inside the ocean, the blue zone. We should also be looking at that because indigenous species through this microplastic helping, because definitely the heavy metals get into fish, right? Somehow. But if microplastic could increase that injection, should increase that heavy metal presence in fish, it will definitely decline species. It will definitely threaten their breeding ground, and it will definitely reduce human protein source. Our water source is at risk, and then our protein source is also at risk. So I think it's something we should actually give time, give resources, give energy to start looking into those things.
We talk about zero waste in our book. Based on your research, is zero even possible anymore? Or are we now in a state of permanent chemical accumulation?
Technically speaking, absolutely. Zero waste is not realistically achievable today. I'm just saying today, right? But it is possible because people say from one place, it is he who lives that can dream, and it's he who dreams that could work towards their dream, right? Why am I saying that? If we say it is not achievable, we will sound like we've lost. And we've not lost as long as we wake up every day, right? So when I say technically speaking, I'm talking about today. I'm not talking about tomorrow. I'm talking, so tomorrow we can say, yes, we can get there. A lot of indices are actually affecting this. A lot of things humanly made, making us not to get there, but we can. Why do I say that? Every day I wake up, I go to the classroom, I look at my students as the future of whatever I am doing. I look at my kids as the future of what I'm doing. So I know we are talking the talk mostly this time, but I want to imbibe in them the work, what they can be doing. How I wish globally every child that is given birth from today as we speak today, right, is being taught how to make sure we get to zero waste, how you can reuse what you have, all right, how you can use less more products, how you can be able to not take more of the minerals, more of the natural resources, but look at what you have and keep reusing them. How I wish every child born today can be taught when you're going to go to market, take your biodegradable bag. Do not pick up more bags from the market, right? Come home with what you've bought straight into the biodegradable. You have a bag that you can reuse over and over again before you can discard. If it's a biodegradable bag that you have, you could actually mix it with other compost, get them degraded even before you send them to the soil so that they don't stay longer. How I wish that. So why am I saying that? It is possible if we can look at all that we have put on the table for zero waste, be it on the fashion, be it on solid waste, be it on wastewater, all right, to start doing them for real. I'm not just saying on the document. I'm not just saying for the global north. I'm saying global north and global south. Everyone should start saying it. How I wish that is one document.
We have one planet, right? So everything gets mixed up in the water, in the soil, and now with all the food that's exported all over the planet, it's from everywhere. So it goes everywhere.
So how I wish we could actually bring up one document, one policy that every government at every tier will adopt, and it will start from the whole, individually, to say, this is what we are going to be teaching from now on, this is what we're going to practice in, that will reduce what we have done and then make better in the future what we should be doing. It's possible.
CANOPS was awarded by the UNGA for SDG innovations in climate adoption. Yeah. What is the one practical strategy in regenerative agriculture that is working in Kenya and Nigeria right now that the West is completely ignoring?
Regenerative agriculture, both in Kenya and Nigeria, is to some certain extent delivering real gains by combining the rainwater harvesting in Kenya with solar-powered farming, to using a whole lot of crop boosters that are from natural ingredients, from soil microbiomes to our compost, our mulching, and most especially using our indigenous species, right? It is actually delivering some care. Seriously. Yes, because across Nigeria, farmers use animal manure and on their maize fields have consistently improved soil chemical. And let me tell you something, fertilizers are very expensive. Mineral fertilizers are very expensive now. And I bet you most farmers, especially in Nigeria and Kenya, cannot afford that. And the funny part, they get these fertilizers as subsidies from the government. Can you get that? So imagine if they can't afford it and they are making use of this and they're getting good results, right? It is very helpful because it all needs the government to stop it. If government is the source of these fertilizers and they are not providing as they used to, it has pushed most of our farmers to go into this. And farmers have started in it because why? This cancer stuff, when Nigerians now go to the hospital and diagnosed of cancer, it is like something they've never heard of before. We believe, most of us in Nigeria have this belief that, oh, it could be some local magic and all that, right? But the reality has stared us in the face that we've now really known that there's really cancer, there is really cardiovascular disease, right? And they've come to understand that it comes from not just the breath, but what they eat. So this reduction in using mineral fertilizers, just to say, because they are expensive now, two, because when government even produces it, it goes to the hands of the few. Most farmers tend to turn to regenerative farming. Now, not just that, what the Western world is not looking at is how is there not only on regenerative agriculture, but making use of our indigenous species. Because by the time our people found out that making use of those seeds that are brought from abroad, it is making them not have reserve they can plant for next year. Every other year they go to market to buy. Every other year. So when they keep them, as for example, they don't stay that good enough to be able to be planted the next year. They had to revert to the little they have. So what the Western world is not looking at, that Nigeria and Kenya has done in terms of regenerative agriculture, is because they are so much in, let's say, precision farming, carbon markets, largely overlooking the simple community-driven approaches. Yes, carbon markets is also good. Precision farming is also good. But you need to start looking at local knowledge. Local knowledge will help you to do more in terms of agriculture. So what CANOPS did was that, what do we have? What is our own nature-based solution to our local problem? So when you come to Nigeria or Kenya, they are looking at our local problem, local nature-based solutions to sort that out. And regenerative farming is one of those things. One, it concerns our indigenous species. Two, it makes us to look at what we have around us that are also very much eco-friendly to our environment, using them to produce what we eat. And now, at the end of the day, we produce healthy things that we eat. We've not gotten that to 100%. We have not gotten that to a larger percentage that we want at about, let's say, 80, 90, thereabout. But these steps are good that if we scale it up, right, and get everybody to be on that stand, it will help us to do better and do more. And I bet you, I want the Western world to know, if you are going to do something that has to protect the environment, that has to keep the environment healthy, and also have to sustain people, right? We are talking about sustainability. You have to know, you don't need to ignore local knowledge, because local knowledge, it is indigenous to that location, right? It will help you to understand what it is. And nature has made it possible. That's one thing we've always talked about in environmental management. Nature has things available for you to come or to solve every problem that comes to it. It's just that we don't look at it, or we don't want to be patient enough to use them, right? That's why there are seasons. That is why, so that once this season brings, the other season takes care of it, right? So we need to start looking at that. I'm not saying precision farming is not good. I'm not saying carbon markets are not good, but they are dependent so much, putting so much energy, so much resources in that. That's what we are getting from our local nature-based solutions to solve, agricultural issues, so that we can sustain our population. Is also as much important as that. And I want them to start looking at that.
You work on capacity building. How do we convince a farmer struggling for daily survival that regenerative isn't a luxury for the rich, but a CAPEX investment for their children's survival?
Regenerative agriculture is not actually a luxury and can never be, right? It is a low-cost, high-return investment that boosts yields, cuts expenses, and builds resilience, making it a survival strategy for smallholder farmers and their children. So when I go out for capacity building, when I go out to talk to our local farmers, when I, in fact, not even just going out, when I go for even local meetings, when I go to anything that brings me closer to rural people and those who are mostly in charge of our farming systems, right? This is what I talk about. It is not a luxury. It can never be something that needs to keep you alive, and it will never be a luxury. Why do I say that? Slow, immediate cost savings. If you are able to tell a farmer that it saves more, I grew up in a village. I'm telling the truth. My father was a farmer. He's late now, right? He not just a farmer, but he was also a teacher. He taught up to, he was a principal of the secondary school, and he retired as a principal. My mom was also that. But if you weigh it on a scale of farming and teaching, they're almost the same. Because we practically did not buy anything from my first year to almost 20, 21, 22 years. We practically did not buy anything in the market apart from fish and meat. Seriously, I sold things in the market, from pepper to cassava to garri to a whole lot in the market, because we have them in abundance. We are bringing them out. So what we do is we'll sell them off. We cultivate every other year. We do fallow farming, right? And it was helping us. One of the things my father did that I don't forget, and I always use that whenever I go out to tell to people, is that before the early rain comes, just like we are in January now, he clears our lands. He brings cow dogs he have kept over till Christmas. In January, he brings them out. Now he sprays them on the farm, the cleared farm, all right? Put them there. When the first rain comes, he takes them in the soil. And when that happens, when you cultivate, it takes us little or nothing to put much there, compost manure to get it all. So, but when my father started worrying, when the government started giving fertilizers as a subsidy, he tried it. And he found out that by the time he started using fertilizers, there was an issue. You see those yams, when you bring them up, they are decayed. They don't stay long. By the time he would estimate that he's going to put in May and April, right? If we cultivate early, or sometimes in June, he found out that most of the yam has started decaying, and he'd be wondering why. So he decided to start reducing his input in using mineral fertilizer. See, can you compare that? I saw this live. I witnessed it. I was part of it. So when I go to talk about them, I told them, see, this was what we were doing. And we had food, not just food, but we had healthy food, using our ash that we produce from our fireplace, right? Using our compost manure, using the normal domestic animals, the goats, the sheep that we have at home. Every morning you sweep out their barns, bring out their dung, and we keep them to use on the farm, right? Even when you plant, let's say you plant what is it called, maize, and you take them out and put pepper afterwards, you will still have the manure that you put on them that will help them to do. So one thing is about, you see that cost, it saves cost, right? Because you have them all around you. So it will demonstrate good yield. And most importantly, not about the good yield, it also helps in producing healthy farm products. That is the most important part of it. Because we have researches all over the world showing that when you use mineral fertilizers, they are not only going to help you, give you a very boostful yielding, but you see them on your leaves. You see them on those vegetables eat. You have part of them being deposited on your farm products. So you are taking in something that will take you to the hospital for you to cure yourself. So I am telling every farmer there, I'm not talking about, because all these farmers, they eat from what they produce, right? So when I go out there, that's what I tell them. It is not a luxury. It's about keeping yourself strong, producing healthy food. Because one, it will save you cost. Two, it will keep your soil healthy. Three, it will also give you the increase you want. And most especially, you and your household will have a healthy lifestyle because you produce healthy food to eat. So it's not overemphasizing. We keep saying that. All right. So when you look at emphasis on risk reduction and resilience, yes, it is so important for us to know, not just our smallholder farmers, but also to our large-scale farmers, because they want it the quick way. They are destroying our soils because they keep on putting in mineral fertilizers every other season, and they want to produce massively to bring to the market. No, most of us here in Nigeria, let me tell you something that is surprising. When you go to market, we are looking at vegetables with a little lesser leaflets, because we are sure those ones come from the natural manure. You saw the ones with very flamboyant leaves, we tend to avoid them. And funny enough, when you buy those vegetables back home, before the end of the day, let's say you buy in the morning, especially now we are in this season, before evening, they are gone. But you see the ones that are produced from our natural manure, you see them staying 1, 2, 3, 4 days without being decayed. You see our carrots spoiling because they come from mineral fertilizers. Is it the pepper? All right. So they have seen this and they know it is true. So what we keep saying is that no matter how free or subsidized these mineral fertilizers do come to you, consider your health first. Consider your health, consider the health of your soil, and consider the future of your children. So it is not.
You are a career accountability partner. When you speak to investors in the global north, what is the biggest limiting factor they have about African climate tech?
African climate tech is where they see it as high risk, low return. But it's a perception that markets are too small, infrastructure is too weak, political risk here and there is too high to deliver scalable and profitable. When we talk about this, right, that is why sustainability is what should be out of our minds anytime, any day. I'm not saying it's not good to live luxuriously. I'm not saying it's not good to make money. I'm not saying it's not good to be wealthy. I'm not saying it's not good to be the one having the power. But first of all, we are humans first before every of these things, right? We are humans, right? So I know when you look at the African climate, we are talking about data gaps. Yes, many investors lack reliable, localized market data. So the default would be no conservative assumptions about demand and growth. That is true. But there also may be story of visibility, infrastructure bias, policy fear, and all that. But what are we going to showcase? You also know that Africa is thriving. And in spite of all our administrative flaws, I want to see a global north that sees Africa as a source, as a place that have the resource that we need, right? And it should not be treated as siphoning it. It should not be treated that we need to grab it from them and keep them at the low. It should not be our administrative gaps, our policy gaps, our data gaps should not be used as, how do I put it, as what is that? No, something that you use against us, right? Because we are looking at one planet. It should not be used against. Because I know, and most of us know, that most of our political undertone is being influenced by the global north. We know that. I know most of the greed here Most of this having this big manism is always affecting our administrative structure, whereby you want to be the one in power. You want to be feared for that power. You're not thinking about a human, what other people need, struggles. You're not thinking about our safety. You're not thinking about our health. That is what's making us have these horrible administrative issues. But I want the global north to start looking at this. We are one. We are human beings. We need to be looking after each other. We need to be our brother's keeper, no matter your location, no matter where you are. When you look at Africa, Africa has it. They have the weather. When you're talking about climate crisis, Africa has the weather to thrive. They have the mineral resources. They have what we need for our market to thrive. Why is the global north thinking that developing this place will make it a better place for us? It will reduce our ice caps from melting. It will reduce our seas from rising, because we have the trees that will absorb these emissions. We have the weather where you can work from January to December if you want to farm. We have the space, right? Why are we not looking at it? And we have the talent. We have the highest population in terms of the youth, right? So why don't we have...
And the future youth, most of the future youth will come from Africa.
Yes. And that's something I only very learned right now. We are global north is somehow indirectly influencing what happens in the political scene in Africa, right? And then they're also creating policies that helps this youth migrate to the north. I want them on a lighter note to look at it this way. What if in the next 10, 20 years, the youth of these Africans, right? This Africa gets to your homeland, learn everything you are doing, even start to be at the hem of the affairs of what you do, because when you struggle, they say when hunger strikes, you must get up to do something, right? A hungry man, they say, is an angry man. And anger fuels innovation. Anger fuels you to start looking at what you have not looked at before, right? So when this youth migrate so much, now you are making your migration policy very easy, and our youth are migrating. When they come there, take all your knowledge back home. Imagine when they say 50, 60, 70% of the migrants out there come back home and decide that our mineral resources, they stay here. Our natural resources, they stay here. We use them. We improve them. We do them the way we want. We use them to... What will the global north do? Because I'm just wondering. You can't catch someone for a long time, because by the time they get hungry, they get angry. And by the time they get angry, they want to come out of the cage. So that is why it is so very urgent to start looking at developing Africa to be like what you are living in, so that you share that partnership, you share that collaboration, you share what nature has given to us to survive. It's not about the location, it's about nature has given human space to survive here, to make life a better place for them. One place should not use it against the other because you have the political willpower to do that. No. We should start looking at how do we enhance our place, not by location, but by seeing it as one planet, to make it as a pathway to reduce the risk that it could emanate in the near future. Because I'm looking at our younger ones who do not really care about what happens in the rural area any longer, who looks at the global north and say, oh, they are bringing out the tech. We want to know what they're doing in tech. And you see them waxing strong. What if they reverse? Because when they are filled up, right, there must be a reverse reaction. And when it happens, what will the global north do? It's not about the war, because I know that if someone comes to you and they want to fight you and you resist it, there is nothing you can do about it. So Africa has what it takes. They have it. And I want the global north to start looking at developing Africa the way they would have wanted to live in it themselves, by helping our administration, and also by influencing politically. They are influencing it now, but they are not doing it in a way it could help Africa itself. So if you need to influence our politics, influencing in a way that Africa will get that development that they deserve and match up to every other country out there. Not just because of Africa, but because someone from the global north could come here and live comfortably, conveniently, and enjoy life while at it. That is what I'm looking at. So I want them to have that shift of belief. Yes, we are lacking data, but they can bring up that technology that we need, bring resources that could help us to meet up, to bridge those gaps.
all right? Yes, they are risking the mechanism, the infrastructure, but yes, they can. They have the resources, they have the willpower, they have political influences over African countries. They should use it positively. That is what I'm emphasizing, and nothing more.
You mentor girls in STEM in a society where talent is everywhere, but access is not. How do you cultivate the Titan mindset in a girl who has never seen a woman lead a climate revolution?
When we talk about the Titan mindset, which is built on 3 pillars: visibility, agency, and community, right? Yes, you can grow it in a girl who's never seen a female climate leader, who has never seen what advocacy is all about, by deliberately inserting each pillar into her daily life, even in low resource settings. Why am I saying that? This hunger came into me because I lived it, and I wanted a change. Most times when I do things, right, I'll be wondering, I wake up every morning, this insight is in me. I go to bed, I have insights, things I want to do, things I wish I could have done. When I look at my past, I'm like, oh God, if I had that opportunity, right? And then I wake up in the morning, I'm looking at the next girl. I don't want you to miss this opportunity because I missed it. One thing that was so much that I put it is very detrimental to my growth when I was coming up is mentorship. There was nothing outside your home. There was nothing else you're getting out there in terms of mentorship. In our school system, in those days when I was growing up, there was this, in primary schools, there were no mentorship. In secondary school, we have what we call guardian and counsel. It doesn't exist anymore. But then it's just one person in the entire school. You can imagine that, right? And they pretty much do nothing, except when a student has maybe issues with registration, or you understand maybe how you want to put your courses, then you could go to that office to resolve it. But there was nothing like the essence of guidance in a student who wants to, what do I want to do when I grow up? What are the things I'm supposed to be doing now to get that, my desired dream? There was nothing like that. In the university, it was still the same. You were afraid. When I was in school, I was just running to the classroom, going back to my hostel to sleep and to read. When I see a lecturer, I wouldn't want my lecturer to know me by my name or know my name with my face, right? Because then I didn't want to have any complexity in terms of what I do or in my studies. I didn't want anybody, using anything against me, right? So it was an issue. Every damn God, why don't I have someone I could look up to? In my sisters, we are also struggling in schools then because 3 of us were in school at the same time. So there was nothing like, oh, this person look after this person. And it was in different schools. So I wake up every day, I'm like, no, this can't happen to my children. And not just my children, it can happen to other children. So when I go out there, I take it as a point of duty to go to the secondary schools where the children start at primary 2, age 2, age 3, start talking to them about it. I didn't just do that. But I started doing it even with my daughter. I told my daughter is also doing that in her school. I want someone to know that you have a future, you have a dream, and that dream cannot come about without your tiny bits of step that you need to start developing now. That's what makes it more complex. When you think, oh, I'm going to be a medical doctor when I graduate or when I go to the university, right? When I grow up. You don't know that there are things that you need to start doing now. Let me tell you, because me, for example, when I was growing up, I told you I grew up in the village, right? I was called Dr. Eberechi, right from 3, 4, 5 years old. And I bet you, that time, my mother would call me, oh, Eberechi, they are calling you in the next compound. They want you to come and check what is happening in their leg. And I'm like, hey, mommy, I'm not a medical doctor. I don't really want to go and prescribe whatever I do not know. Somebody will have maybe a beasting or maybe a nail or a thorn on the leg, or they are calling me to come and remove it. I'll be the one to remove the thorn from the leg. I will be the one to dress the wound. As small as I was there, right? And that fashioned me because every time they put it in me, this is who you're going to be. I know I was going to teach because I started teaching way back in my primary school. So I tell every female girl, one, you need to be visible. Identify whatever you want to be and become visible with it. I'm not just telling them, I'm helping them to do that. 2, you have to start making use of digital window to be able to use platforms to learn and also to know what to do.
All right. I'm also telling them using story kits. Most of the times when I'm called up to speak to these students or to the younger ones, a story that I tell, I use my story to tell them, right? This is what I went through and this is who you can become. So why am I doing that? Because I know that little by little that you do shapes who you want to be. Something you do every day will definitely shape your habits and will in turn become you. And if you're doing that, that means you can't do the negative, right? So I am getting one female at a time to stay away from doing the hard work, from going the wrong way. By doing those bits that they can do now, getting their friends to be part of it as they grow up, so that by the time they leave the higher school, right, they have become that person that they want to be. They have become agents of advocacy. Yes. So that at the end of the time, right, I am seeing females coming up, not just in STEM, right, but somebody channeling their energy from their passion, what they do, the dream they want to become, in the tiny bits of habits and projects they indulge in and they are doing right now, and collaborating and partnering with their fellow classmates in doing that, even in terms of discussion and creating visibility around it, becomes who they want to be and makes this STEM very much easier for them to enjoy it while at it and be part of it as they go.
You founded the Youth Climate Action Network. Are the youth in Africa angry or are they innovating? What is the difference between climate activism and climate architecture?
All right. I will tell you from my little experience that African youth are actually angry, and that anger has fueled passion. Seriously. Because the first time I spoke in a student convention, and I spoke from my perspective. And what was it that I say? I told them I want them to come together in one umbrella, not talking about what happens in the classroom. And this was a convention that was organized by students in environmental management related courses across southeastern zone of Nigeria. And they called me up to speak to the students. And I told them, I don't know why you came here. I don't know what you've been doing before. And I know this is not the first time, because from the convention I could read this about, I think the third time. And I said to them something that ignited the fire in them. I told them, if you call yourself a student of environmental management or anything that has to do engineering or whatsoever, environmental related courses, you should not just gather in a conference center once a year to talk about your way forward. No, you should be out there. Whatever you've learned every day, starting from your first year in the university, right? You should be implementing, because environmental things are not vague. They are not obsolete. They are things that you live by every day. You see them every day. So you should be out there sharing whatever knowledge you've got to the other ones coming up from you. I listed a whole lot they could do in terms of environmental actions, right? And to them that day, it was like a fire. I could see anger in their face. I could see this is what we've been doing before. Because one of the things they put up in that convention, apart from my speech, was, because my speech, they gave me to say whatever I want, was things they could do after graduation. And you could see most of them don't even know where to start, apart from the government work. And I told them, you are not looking for what to do. You are the one who should start doing something. So it was like a reverse on that day. All right. So I am telling you, yes, that anger is there, but that anger is leading to the innovation you're seeing today. You can see our children, even in the United States, in the AI thing, doing a whole lot, producing apps that they are selling off, right? That's the kind of youth you're having here. I'm telling you, what makes it look as if it's a little bit not visible is because we have so much in terms of population. But I bet you a large number is doing something, right? So when you look at the climate crisis that hits Africa, is it the drought? Is it the flood? Is it the food insecurity? Is it even the insecurity we are looking at that is, ravaging most of our countries, especially Nigeria? These things have actually induced children, the youth, to be able to start looking for solutions out there. And they are. So young people feel a real urgent sense of injustice, right? They protest here and there. You know about our protest last time, whereby in the 2020, where youth were protesting over NSAS. We are being treated by the same agency that should be protecting them. That is the kind of youth we have. Why are they doing that? Because they know they are contributing a lot to our economy and therefore should not be treated the way they are being treated. No one should be treated on the road and be harassing them, checking their laptops, checking their phones, seizing them and trying to get them to bail themselves out or pay money to get those things out. So they protested. So these protests are part of the anger. But it is also helping these students to know, these youth, to know that we are here to fight for ourselves and we need to do something. And you can see that in the kind of migration they're having into the UK, into the US, in terms of seeking for a master's degree, even paying it by themselves to make sure you have a higher degree that could help them do something better. All right. So I'm looking at it that these ventures show that anger is being channeled into entrepreneurship, it's being channeled into technology, it's being channeled into community designs. In my university, we have students in engineering designing a whole lot of equipment that could have been shipped from China, right? You can see students doing a lot of community work these days. They are seeing them mostly in the AI industry, the technology industry, doing things that are moving them because why? They are marginalization. They are not having that opportunity to be in the government to speak. It's pushing them into this corner and they are doing well. All they need is someone to tap them and hold them by hand and say, you can do more. I'll give you the platform to be visible. Most of the things happening here are not getting the visibility at all that they desire. That is why it seems that we are not hearing so much about it. So they need that visibility platform to be able to come up or to show the world what is happening here. Not just for those who have traveled abroad, but those who are here that are staying back in the country. So when you look at climate activism and climate architecture, climate activism is just the voice of the movement. It is about raising awareness, protesting, lobbying policymakers, demanding systemic change, creating pressure, frame the narratives, and then build it will. Yes, it is also good. Our typical tools is just use social media campaigns, petitions, public speaking, enlightenment, but it is also good. But when you look at climate architecture, it's the blueprint of the response. It is the concrete design of systems, policies, all right, and infrastructure that deliver low carbon, resilient outcomes, which also include policy frameworks. Yes, that is one that we are doing now. At the end of any COP, right, meeting, countries to look at policy frameworks according around whatever that is being discussed. One thing Nigeria has done now is being very active in these COP meetings, and it is having effect. I could tell you for sure. Tomorrow I have a meeting, and that meeting is on developing climate policy framework for the Abia State, which they are submitting to the national. We are developing that. I'm part of that technical committee. We have started. We are trying to finishing touches and submit it back to the Ministry of Environment, which they will push to the national level, right? Then before we look at it, it's a policy framework. So they are getting states in Nigeria to put their climate policy framework that they will work with and with a timeline. In something this called climate architecture. When we look at fiscal infrastructure, those renewable microgrids, like the things I've been pushing for the last 2 years, I carried out a national workshop on microbiome, is to get a center for bioorganic innovation. All right, whereby every researcher that is carrying out anything on a bioorganic, nature-based solution on bioorganic to be able to sort out climate crisis could use that center for their research, could use their center for their community engagement, could use that center. So I've been writing to the government to be able to establish that center. And I pray and hope I will get that. I don't know, but I'm still pursuing. I'm positive and I'm being in about it. Because when we have such centers established in several schools or universities, it will be able to align research and the policy makers and the host communities to be able to carry out bioorganic solutions or nature-based solutions for climate actions. So our next thing is technological systems and economic models, right? So carbon pricing, green bonds, technology systems like climate smart agricultural platforms, early warning system, those are climate architecture. But let me tell you, the climate activism will always be the engine that propagates those policymakers, the government, the researchers to be able to do this. So their voices help to lay that climate architecture. Their voices help to shout it loud and louder, keep saying it so that those who are in charge to be taken care of will be persuaded to do something. So both are equally important. they help each other. So whichever one anybody could be able to do, it means we are not missing out. So even if you're not in the government, you can be an activist, right? So your voice can be heard. Your voice could be the engine that propels the government to be able to lay the foundation for them to do. So I tell them every time, wherever you find yourself, as an environmental management student, as an environmental resource engineering student, whoever you are, as long as you have something related to the environment, all you need to do is use your voice in your social media. Is it by writing? Is it by saying it every day? One word from you every day can go a long way to do something. I've seen youth do that, using from their platform, Facebook, LinkedIn. They say much and they call them to speak to others. I've seen them do that. So I encourage them every day. So let me tell you something that I did. When I started that, it was my salary that I used. I still use my salary to do that. In any month, I do it every other as a 3 months. I will put my savings together and then give to one university for them to carry out either a cleanup exercise or a sensitization in where they are, or a university host community, or they go to secondary schools to teach the students there. That's what I do. And I make sure they do that. So I give them money to maybe for their transport or for their refreshment or to buy PPEs to be able to, no matter, depending on the projects they bring out that month, that's a period to do. I sponsor them from my salary to be able to do that. And why am I doing that? It gives them a platform. It makes them to start having a voice of their own, to do what they should do. So that even when they graduate in the they graduate in the university, they can actually put up that 1% of their salary from what they're earning to also keep on doing this. Some of them have gotten free trainings online, and I'm sure no matter how it is, no matter how small it looks like, it will definitely make a difference someday.
Well, great. Good luck to you. You said we need a working global monitoring channel. Is AI the key to this transparency, or do we still need the social contagion of people in streets?
Yeah, is the engine, all right, but the street level is also the social contagion when it comes to fuel. Both of them are essential, seriously. A true functional global monitoring channel, both of them are very essential. Why is it AI? Why is AI crucial? For scale and speed, for data integration, for predictive power, for transparency and trust. AI will take care of that. It is even, we are very lucky, being alive at this time that AI is existing, because it's going to help us to scale very, very fast. It's going to help us to put things, especially in terms of monitoring and evaluation. Yeah, this thing I said one time when Bright was on a tour in India to check out some of his projects. I put that I have seen most of the projects in Nigeria, but one major thing they are lacking is monitoring. Yes, they come for evaluation, but monitoring it is their actually specific time, and the shorter the monitoring timeline, the better, right? Because it makes you to catch things in real time. It makes you to see things in real time. All right. So AI has made it easier that no matter where you are, no matter where your project is, no matter how far or how deep in the rural area your project is, you can be able to monitor in real time what is going on, so that you don't run a risk of losing much at the end of the day. So when you talk about transparency and trust, yes, open source algorithms and public data portals let anyone verify the results, reducing black box criticism. Yes, it does that. Right? So, and data integration, it fuses disparate data sources, climate models, market prices, health records into a single dashboard, making cross-sector impacts visible. So AI is there to do that for us. But the social part is also it remains indispensable. Why do I say that? When you talk about legitimacy and pressure, who does that? It's not the AI. When you talk about local markets, who does that? It's not the AI. When you talk about behavior change, who does that? It's not the AI. The accountability is not the AI. So both of them should work hand in hand. So when you talk about street protests, community meetings, grassroots campaigns, critical political urgencies, someone has to say that. And those things are fuels. They are the intricacies that can pull the administrative force. They can pull the political will to push the government, to push the policymakers. To say, okay, now for the sake of our integrity, let's take this. So this contagion amples the impact of AI insights. AI will give us the insights that we need for us to project our voice. So we are not going to take out the social part. No, we are not, because we do both things. I will give us that is human beings. We put the pressure so that because someone needs to pay for those resources. And how do we get someone to pay? We use our voice to do that. We put a little pressure. We'll bring the insights to them. In fact, for me, I can integrate the social with the research, right? Imagine if I do a research and found out something, or I eat something and I don't speak it up. AI won't do that for me, right? So I need to have a platform where I put out what I have, be it the street, be it the conferences, be it in meetings. Like most times you see, I don't know what I know how it happens there, but you see, because in the global north, the government most of the times pay for research work, so they have access to it. But here in the global south, governments do not. Even if they do, it's a little percentage, right? Also, who knows who. So most of the research you see here largely depend on individual basis, because it comes as a criteria for your promotion. It comes as a criteria for a job. So it comes as a criteria for your degree. So you have to bring out that money to do that, right? So imagine when you get that done. Who hears about it? It's not about publishing that. There's not this integration between the government having the data that you have produced is not there, right? So we had to make effort. Like me, I make effort to go to the government to say, this is what I've been doing. Is there something I can volunteer to do? I'm not asking for anything. I'm not asking for a position. But when you're going out for this project, right? Could I be part of it so that I can lend my voice to that? That's how I started, right? Now, I could also say, because I said that, because they start looking at it, oh, we don't do that in that way. Okay, what do you want us to do? Do you think you can bring insight on her? And I said, okay, let's put it this way. Can we make this community driven? You are in charge. I will just volunteer to speak or volunteer to show them. Can I use your meeting to be able to show the farmers what I have done in soil microbiome for soil fertility? And they will say yes. All right. So that is what AI cannot do. So social is also indispensable. But AI Insights makes our work faster, it makes evaluation faster, it makes monitoring faster, and that could scale and get us where we want to be.
Let's turn to Vision 2050. In your article, One Day in 2050, you envision a cleaner Nigeria. If we continue the extraction path, what does that day look like versus the stellar path you're building?
Okay, that paper, I actually meant it from my heart. Believe me, I actually meant it from my heart, because that is the dream I have for my country, Nigeria. Right? And look at the extraction part, what you want to get, but all about living that, enjoying yourself now and then making the earth your dumping place. No, really, it should not be so. We have been wired because of our struggle, because of our quest to life. We've been wired that way. We want to take in more. Now, people are saying that taking in more is grave early, right? Because what are you taking more? You want more money. You live on one bed every night. You drive one car at a time. You eat one plate of meal at a time. Yes, we are amassing that wealth to have that, that when we come, especially I don't know whether you know what, have you been in Africa before? Maybe we'll talk about America, but I am saying that somebody wants to be, I'm the one in charge. When I come down with a lot of around me, then you'll be able to remove your cap from it. So when we are looking at the extraction part, business as usual, let's look at it from airports. I'm sorry. Let's take out Nigeria, for instance, right? Major cities like Lagos, Kano, they are smoke choked. All right, understand? So those levels averaging 80 to 100, disease are bounds leading to causes of hospital visits. You see the eye about 40 enough. All right, when you look at water, we are having in there, you see with the plastics, with the heavy metals that we talked earlier. Look at food security, overfishing, all right? We are having, yield is becoming lesser and lesser. And now we are looking at importing some of those things. We look at energy, the economy, the climate, extreme heat waves, flooding, everything. Like this year, we barely have, that's what we call Hamatan in Nigeria, right? It comes from December, January, February. It hasn't come. We are still waiting. You can imagine that, all right? Coastal erosion has displaced millions in the Niger Delta, creating climate refugees. Why am I saying that? Because we are looking at things that will make sustainable. So regenerative, sustainable future is the way forward. It could help our air quality, it could help our water quality, it could help our food security, it could help our age, because we have those things that we could use instead of putting them as waste
right? That waste that could actually destroy our soil, destroy our environment. We can convert those waste into renewable energy. We can convert those waste into biofertilizers. We can do that to help our climate. Those climate actions that could help sustain our environment. So the extraction pathway is one of the things we should not only be preaching now, but make sure that people put them in practice to stay away from. Not that you have to take, but it has to be on a sustainable. And then you have to use what you have and move them. We are talking about zero waste, yes. You produce a waste, channel that waste back as renewable energy. It will serve you again, or channel them as biofertilizer. It will also serve you. We've said that it will be the best way to work.
You're a healthy lifestyle enthusiast. How does your personal purity, what you eat, and how you live, fuel you to take on the world's most toxic problems?
Not even a luxury. Seriously, it is a strategic foundation, which I decided this is what I want to do. And I just decided. I wake up every morning and tell myself, Ebere, this is what you need to do. This is what you should be doing. Clean food, clean thinking. So I wake up by thinking about it every day. Anytime, it helps me to be accountable to myself, right? So that I will be able to check, what did I do yesterday? What did I do in the last week? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do this way. In fact, when people see me eating something, they were like, oh, doctor, are you? I'm like, God, I wake up every morning, I say, I become intentional about it. I prioritize it. I prioritize it. Whatever I'm going to eat, the cleanliness of what I'm going to eat, the cleanliness of where I'm going to live, I am so conscious about. And I have made it as a name for myself. So when someone wants to give me, oh, no, Dr. Eberechi, she will not take. They already know about it, right? Or we are serving food in the university, maybe in one event or the other. No, don't give Dr. Eberechi. No, she won't take. They won't ask me any longer because that is what I do. So when I come to the university, maybe I come to my office, Doctor, come with please, my spoon. Can I share with you? So that is when I to know people have known that is part of me, right? Then my physical activity, I don't joke with them because I am a mesomom. Right from my primary school, I started wearing gear because from everything, because you see me going big every day. We have the food, so that is one thing you don't look for. Whenever you come to my house, you must eat food. There's food all the time. My father works hard, my mother works hard, so there's always food. So I started going that, but my mom, she would say, "Better, you are not like others. That's a slim. This thing can come in nature, but you mess them up. So when you eat what others eat, you will definitely grow bigger." So she sees me growing bigger. And when I came out of the university, I made that as a decision. I started running. I started taking my physical activities very important. And then when you come around me, I'm telling you, if you come to my house, my kids, they're all my coaches, as I am. So because I know one thing is that I need to live healthy. If all these insights to me, the things I need to do in the world, the impact I need to make, the teachings I need to give people, the strategies I need to make, when I look at them and I know they're all dependent on my strength, and my strength is dependent on my health, and my health is dependent on the actions I take daily, I become so serious about it. So I'm not saying it as maybe, oh, you are too much. No, my strategic foundation that I have laid for myself, and I preach it everywhere I do. It has become part of me. If I meet someone in the vehicle, in the plane, anywhere, I don't know how that discussion goes, but somehow it will definitely revolve about clean eating. It will revolve about the clean habitation. It will definitely revolve about your physical activity. That is me, and that's what I do, seriously. So avoiding toxins, protecting myself. I told you, when I went to the hospital, they said I have cervical spondylosis, and the doctor told me, it has to do with what is happening in your brain, right? So you had to go for is it MRI or MRI, which of them?
MRI.
MRI. So the doctor told me I have to go for MRI scan. That whatever that is happening in your neck has nothing to do with what is happening in your brain from all indications. So the cervical spondylosis we had to affect, my limbs and all that. So, but when we checked it, all the indices for brain scan, as of August 2024, I have that's what my results were. And I came home and I was happy. So the doctors were worried, the neurologists were worried. What's going on? I said, I have a lot in my plate. All right. I have a dissertation in the US, and I have extra work given to me in my university that I'm doing. I am trying to make sure my university, come out, can be in the ranking. He said, all this. So what are you going to do? I said, Doc, I don't know. He said, have you checked? So they checked some of my minerals that were lacking, and then they had to boost it up. So they said, okay, supplement some of now. I need the normal. And so when I'm saying that, doing our checkups, all right, and avoid poisons, that would harm, and they can be able to put your hormones in bizarre. It is so much important. And most importantly, rest and recovery. It's what gives you your sustained performance. So when you protect yourself by sleeping 7 to 8 hours and practice mindfulness and meditation, this consolidates memory, enhances decision making, and prevents burnout. When confronting global challenges, a rested mind is more creative and resilient. This I have learned, and this I am telling people.
Final question, Dr. Osuagwu. If you were standing on the floor of the United Nations tomorrow, you had only 60 seconds to speak to the titans of industry, what is the one practical move they must make to leave this world better than they found it?
That is a very, very critical to me, because every day I think about it. Is there anything I wish I can do? So today, I am using this opportunity to tell the world that we must make it to embed full life cycle transparency into every product and every supply chain, backed by open source AI monitoring, and tie it to science-based negative positive targets that publicly reported. Why am I saying that? I am saying that because when you look at the world today, you can't stop people from industrialization. It started from world memorial, right? You can't stop people from development and growth. You can't stop people from making wherever they are living a good place for them, the way that, happened. So what can we do while we still look at giving people what they want, or allow them to get what they want, and still make sure that we live this world better than we made it, that we live a world that our children will appreciate, that they miss out on the things that we met. What is that thing we are going to do that will help with that? I call it full life cycle transparency. And what does that mean? Each company must disclose their carbon, water, plastic, and chemical footprint. It is very, very important. Products from extraction to disposal. Because I have looked at the things, look at the things I say every day. And this is one of the things I know we could start looking at now, so that in the next 50 years, even if we are gone, even if there is an opportunity for our spirits to see what is happening over here, we will smile and say, thank God we did this, right? So what is it? So if you use AI to verify data, flag hotspots, and drive rapid correction, align this with binding commitment to not just reduce harm, but to restore ecosystems. Example, like we do in Nigeria. In Nigeria, our university funding research from 1% of companies in Nigeria, what they do, 1% of their income, all right, of what they generate. So what if in a global way now, we start looking at 1% of revenue invested in regenerative projects? This transparency will create accountability, it will drive innovation, and it will empower consumers and governments to reward true sustainability. It's going to be the foundation for a circular economy and a healthier planet. So I am saying, right, by the time we use AI to do integration, to monitor and evaluate, and for us to be able to back it up by science-based and use this net positive targets, we are not only going to make this earth a habitable place for us and for our next generation, but we will make it better. We will make it better. So I say, let's act now. Make transparency our competitive advantage, not a compliance checkbox. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The insights and solutions we discuss here are crucial for a cleaner future. They're about a fundamental shift in mindset. We believe that interviews like this are so profound, they can change the course of your life. If this conversation moved you, hit that subscribe button to join the community that's building the sustainable future. Thank you for watching. Like and tell your friends about Clean Titans, and consider supporting us on Buy Me a Coffee. And we'll see you next time on Clean Titans.